Hello everybody, my name is Anthony. Welcome back to Let's Play Hearts of Iron for the New Order as Iberia. Let us continue on from where we last left off. So, overall, I think the country is at least moving in a positive direction. I believe so, at least. We need to start working on the west side locks. So something we need to put more money into there. So right now we have 5.5 million. This costs 7. So I mean, it's not so bad. Like, we just need like 1 or 2 more events. And then we should be good to go on that. The old and the new. The tiny cup of tea shook in Manuel's hands as he lifted up to his lips. The shaking had started at some point of his more than 20 years of captivity in Timor, maybe halfway through, but had only become noticeable for him when he held the glass and watched the liquid slosh around, spilling over the rim. It took willpower and concentration to drink from his mother's tea set without making a mess. Emmanuel took almost as much satisfaction from mastering his hands as he did from the tea. The set was the same his mother had owned before he left the Portuguese colonies. Good porcelain painted with blue glazing in the style of the Azulejos. It had been her most valuable possession back in the 30s, and only brought out on special occasions. Much in the living room had not changed. The photos on the wall, the furniture, the little figurine of Saint Anthony upon the cabinet. Many other things were different, of course. His father died of bowel cancer in 1957. He had been told on the way to Lisbon. His mother was old, deeply wrinkled, her hair stark white. His siblings were now about as old as his parents were when he had left. The change he had expected... the change that he expected to be most dramatic was the fact that his country no longer existed. Except that it did, in a sense. And he felt no great difference living in Iberia than he had in Portugal. Homes had television sets, and the cars and clothes were all strange to him, but in the end, he was drinking tea from the same tea set under the same roof, in the same city with the same streets. It felt as if the places and people he once knew had been replaced and were now pretending to be his Portugal. Manuel knew it was silly, but the feeling could not be erased any more than it could stop his hands from shaking. Everything is the same, and everything is different. I mean, you've been basically in a jail cell for the past 20 years, so... I mean, it sucks for you. Declare war on the Pacific Fleet? Apparently you are just the Pacific Fleet. Do you have, like, a focus tree? No. Okay. So we'll see if these guys can actually end up winning the wars in Siberia. I don't know. I mean, they got, like, such a long front line that I feel like they probably don't have much actual chance of survival. But who knows, right? I'm not training troops. I don't think we need to train any troops right now, honestly. Like, you know, fine. We'll build, let's say, 2 divisions, I guess. Okay, so I got better motorized equipment, even though I don't think we're actually using any motorized equipment. And we'll follow that up with anti-air. No. Let's go for a land doctrine. More defense and soft attack and some ground support. That seems okay. Again, like, I don't think we're going to be going to war anytime soon. People also been saying in the comments that this guy might just coup the government. I don't know, maybe it's not this exact guy, but the French mercenaries that we hired to help win over Algeria, they might end up coupping the government, which might have some problems for us in the future, but we'll see. Shipwrecks in the salt flats. The Anarchists project is near universally understood to be one of the greatest mistakes in modern history. It is, however, proving to be a godsend for archaeologists. Following amazing discoveries in Italy's Adriatic salt flats, Iberia's Naval Hydrographic Institute has approved a scientific expedition to Canberra. What had once been an uninhabited island laying along the ancient trade route between Iberia and Italy became the large peninsula of the Marjada Manrica. The site of a small military base, members of the public are forbidden to enter the peninsula, which has left its salt flats largely unmolested by treasure hunters and ripe for potential for discovery. Hidden in a graveyard of rusted fishing vessels, a typical site of the salt flats, major historical discoveries were made. 2 shipwrecks dated to the Punic era, 9 shipwrecks from the Roman era, and 2 downed Luftwaffe fighters were found and extensively documented in the expedition. Gathering medieval artifacts were also identified, but are too badly decayed to provide any particular useful information. Most wrecks carry lead ingots from mines in what was now Andalusia towards Mediterranean cities, but by far the best preserved is a Roman ship that sank around 400 AD. The nearly 2,000 atmosphere of the ship were all originally filled with fermented fish sauce, an extremely popular export from Iberia, enjoyed by the rich and popular alike across the Roman Empire. The assortment of finds from Canberra has produced enough research material in just 2 months since your discovery that fill multiple volumes of text. This and similar finds across the Mediterranean salt flats are sparkling a revolution in underwater archaeology, which now seems to be the main interest of Spanish archaeology students and researchers alike. I can't help but notice, still. I'll add another $1 million. That's not enough to actually finish this, but... Just need to install use. That's another... $14 million. But what we need is... I would like more of a focus tree, please? Because, I mean... It's 1965. The focus still... You know, nothing's happened here yet. We need $14 million. But I'm sure we'll get there in time. And of course, you know, Salzir's not dead. The Wanker Brigade's gonna win their Earl League. I don't think these guys can actually break out of this little area. But I can't imagine the Euro League is going to end up winning that war. Okay, you guys are now at war with each other. Will Emor win? Maybe. They might. I'm not too sure. I mean, I would put money on Ersk, just because I'm sure they probably have like a larger population. And Camacha is actually starting to push into Siberia, which I'm surprised by, but... You're still at war with these guys in the south. I mean, is there any other major wars going on? This says it's at war. It's not really at war. It's just that they're kind of at war with Russia. It's a weird situation. And as far as I can tell, nobody else has broken out of this territory quite yet. Okay, what else do we want to research? Let's go for... 1970 tech is way too ahead of time, but 1965 industry tech is right up our alley, for sure. So let's see, what are you guys? You guys are opening up the party. America, what are you guys doing? You are securing congressional support. The Great Eminence. You're cooperating with Japanese intellectuals. What are you doing? What are you doing? The Great Eminence. So we'll kind of see what these guys end up doing. Are they going towards, like, the ultra-nationalist path? They might be. The two Cadillos had prepared their board. Salazar, given a choice, opted for black. Franco was playing white. Salazar was quite capable at chess, though he'd only bragged a little about it, and Franco had just an experience and not an explanation on the basic functions of the game. With everything prepared, the Cadillos began their game. The quiet of the office they had prepared, besides the ticking of the playing clock, providing effective for facilitating the contemplation of moves. Franco moves his first piece, F3. Chess is lacking without multiple ample conversation. If this is anything to go by, E5. That would be correct, began Salazar. If you cannot reminisce, the game loses some of its appeal, G4. For the new order, it doesn't seem all that orderly. Do you think the Germans ever put much thought into what came after the war? QH4. No, I do not. Anyway, this is checkmate. Franco looked at the board again. No matter where he looks, Salazar is right. There's nowhere to move. You need to practice if you want to beat me. If only you could veto your moves, Antonio. How did you lose? You lost in 4 moves. Come on now. You know what? Just make more rifles. Again, it doesn't really, I think, matter what we actually produce. $2 million. Yeah, now we can actually get something done. Okay, let's scroll back down to the bottom. $2 million. Follow that up with some more dockyards. I mean, you're still content. The vanishing arms. An interesting phenomenon has been reported in the province of Barcelona. Apparently, several Italian arms shipments have gone missing in a state-owned warehouse near the wharf. Due to the fact that these arms were embarked for the Federal Army, which is rather shoddily equipped in the sector, getting to the bottom of this supply leak is of the utmost importance. Several leads have been noticed and can be pursued, including access records to secure areas of the warehouse, the guard shifts, and, if worse comes to worse, something worrying accounts of separatist activity in the area. As this is Catalonia, it's very possible that nearly any force could be involved. Additionally, due to lack of damage on the buildings and storage areas, it's very possible that the force caused the arms disappearance has one or more men on the inside. While this is hopefully not the case, it could be best to keep this investigation quiet in order to make sure nothing leaks. I'm a little bit worried if, like, I've set us into, like, a position where, like, we're gonna have a civil war very, very soon. Okay, more people are at war, that's fine. Armed shipment missing. Despite the best efforts of the AAS, it seems that the leads present were all dead ends. Thorough questioning of the warehouse guards for nothing but reports of strange noise at night, which are fairly typical for the postings in a large city. Background checks also fail to reveal anything to note. The guard and civil officers charged with guarding the area are apparently all entirely loyal, with no history of corruption at all. The access records were also useless, as there's simply no way for anyone to remove the crates of guns and anti-tank munitions without being detected by outside forces. What is going on here is clearly either a legal matter for the local police or a simple bureaucratic error. Thus, it is best to either kick this issue down to the locals or drop it, and instead focus on preventing anomalous situations like this from happening again, be it through greater security or bureaucratic reform. You know, it's probably a bureaucratic error. Just don't worry about it. Abandoning the search. With the formal end of the investigation over the missing arms shipments, the AAS has withdrawn its assets from Barcelona, with the exception of those on permanent counter-terrorist duty on the local headquarters. The official report shall state that the disappearances are likely due to bureaucratic error, and that reforming the supply system of the Federal Army is the recommended solution for this issue. Despite the honest recommendation, it is known almost unanimously that this is unlikely. Logistics 1 Moorfield, where the Iberian Federal Army fails at, it is not likely that it is not likely to change that just because some rifles and rocket launchers decide to go walkabouts. At the very least, perhaps Iberia can console itself in that saving money on the investigation. Was I supposed to investigate? I have not heard political power. I can throw political power at this situation. That's not good. No, that's really bad. Oh, fuck. Okay. So the CNT seized control of Barcelona. Our government was in near chaos this morning as the Series 2 Canudos awoke to frightening news. According to reports, well-armed militias loyal to CNT FII have launched a push against the Barcelona administration. The attack began in the evening and continued well into the night by local police forces, eventually folded under the weight of the rebels' advance. The fighting culminated in the seizure of all government buildings and the subsequent expulsion of Iberian authorities from the Plaza de Sant Jaume. Already, anarchist militias have begun to erect makeshift fortifications on the streets of Barcelona, and even our loyal officers hold out in various pockets throughout the city. In response to this surprising turn of events, Franco has publicly questioned the efficiency of Barcelona police forces, desperately inquiring as to why they were somehow unable to defuse the situation sooner. These same authorities are also fluxant on the apparent ferocity of the CNT forces. If there is any information that can somehow be gleaned from the situation, is we can at least know with certainty where those missing arms shipments went. So, that's not good, I will admit. Yeah, like, I guess I didn't see, okay, well, fantastic. The Battle of Barcelona. Shocking scenes that emerged from the growing crisis in the Iberian Peninsula as uncontrollable political violence threatens to spread across the nation. Catalonia has seen some of the worst fighting between political dissidents and government forces, who have been clashing day and night in the region's capital. In scenes eerily reminiscent of the Spanish Civil War, barricades were manned once again, and neighbors were put against neighbors as ideological leanings took over the lives of Barcelona's residents. For the moment, the radical left trade union, known as CNT FII, and its sympathizers have wrestled control of Barcelona and are now set for a bloody prolonged struggle against the counterattack of pro-government forces. To tell all the time itself for Spain, as the nation plays out a bloody, tumultuous years of the 30s once more. Chaos! That's what best can be defined, the quagmire that Barcelona has become. Our control over the city is waning down each second that passes by. At this rate, Barcelona will fall to the CNT. We must stop this at all costs. This absolutely cannot happen with any circumstance. We must push them back and quickly. It matters not what few resources we have at our disposal. We will use them all. We will have a long-term advantage, sure, but that's not what matters. If CNT gains control, then it will just be a massive morale boost for them, and it might inspire others to join them. Put the Reds down. So, again, I didn't really see this happening. There we go. Just staying at Barcelona. I'm pretty sure this doesn't change anything with the actual game mechanics. Also, I guess you guys just deploy wherever. It really doesn't matter where you deploy. Barcelona stands. The bastard scum of the CNT have taken complete control of Barcelona, setting up barricades and shooting anybody who tries to enter their sectors. It seems they are setting up defensive structures, along with foxholes, the aforementioned barricades, and even trenches, as if they're kids playing war. The army has tried several times to push in, but the godless militiamen have pushed them back each time. If we are to take Barcelona, we must put them back in their place once more. Indirect and heavily-handed manner. We must not waver, despite knowing of the collateral damage that will be inflicted upon this once beautiful city. We have 3 options: an artillery siege, pure shock and awe, naval bombardment, somewhat similar to the first option, but far more destructive and accurate, and finally the armored core. Sending tanks to a city is sometimes considered suicidal, but in most cases where it was indeed suicide, they were against professional armies, not untrained young men with makeshift rifles and Zephyr cocktails. The choice is yours, and the men shall follow it. I guess, you know what? Let's just bomb the city with artillery, like shock and awe. One second. The fallen revolutionaries. Every few minutes, Adolfo could hear gunshots in the distance. His city was on fire, and sandbags lined the street below his apartment, just as it was 26 years ago. The world was different then. Adolfo had once seen a great future of the Iberian proletariat, and almost sacred struggle against the fascists and monarchists who sought to destroy the meager progress the Republic had made. But now, as the CNT once again faced against the nationalist soldiers in the streets of Barcelona, he understood that the dream was dead. Perhaps in another world the revolution could have succeeded, but not in this one. Adolfo opened his closet, removing a small pile of clothing to find a small latch in the bottom. He opened a secret stash. Memories of decades long past. There it was, his Tiger rifle, the weapon he had used in his first and only kill. The weapon he had imagined he would use many times against resisting Francoist domination after the fall of the Republic, but never did. He moved the rifle slightly to reveal an old black and white photograph underneath it, and there it was. Now there he was on the left hand of the image, a few inches shorter than the other young men with him. His facial hair had not grown in yet. He was holding his rifle and smiling. With him were 4 comrades, all of whom he remembered well. Ramon, who could make just about anybody laugh even at the worst of times, shot by a sniper in January of 1939. Manuel, a brilliant student and equally brilliant fighter, told Adolfo he was running away to France and was never heard from again. Sarah, the girl with glasses that he could not help but imagine one day marrying, captured by Francoist regime shortly after the war and never seen again. And Ascuin, his childhood friend that had convinced Adolfo to take up arms, also captured and never seen again. What had battles really accomplished, and what did the young revolutionaries in the street now expect to happen? You guys can just go to Algeria. So I mean, it's kind of like a sad little story there. Barcelona falls to indiscriminate bombardment. As their heavy guns fall silent, so does the city. The rebels have downed their guns and surrendered in waves. Our siege worked, but at a cost. A good portion of the city is now in ruins, 3 days of constant shelling by our large 15-centimeter howitzers being the cause, as the AAS struggles with arresting thousands of traitors, residents, and soldiers going into the city. The army men carried gun in hand, always looking at the floor for mines and booby traps. Many residents are seen crying on top of the rubble, dead family members who couldn't evacuate because of age or condition, or just a loss of their homes. An aura of misery and smell of death linger in the air. In the most heavily damaged neighborhoods, more civilians and CNT partisans have died. However, it was still a victory. Not a Pyrrhic one, but total. All CNT forces have surrendered in the city. Afraid of the might are artillery pieces. The Iberian flag once more on the Castilla de la Quat. So we'll worsen stability. We're losing manpower, but again, we have like 600 political power. We have enough for this. Barcelona secured. Gunfire still sounds occasionally in the hottest zones of Barcelona, but otherwise the Iberian army and Guardia Civil seem to have control of the situation. The Anarchist CNT have finally been put down at last, it seems. However, this only raised more question. How are they able to hold this revolt? And how did they secure so much popular support? It seems that many things we must do as a nation to prevent this crisis from happening again, as the bodies are buried, and the last leftist militia executed. The Caudillos and Iberian Council must determine a new course of action. You know what? Let's raise salaries for a bit. At least make our workers a little bit less upset. The aftermath. The reports couldn't be clearer. Hundreds dead, thousands injured, and a city devastated. While Barcelona may have been retaken by government forces, this is a wake-up call, and it seems clear now that the administration hasn't gone enough to fight terrorism, and those who seek to destroy Iberia are getting stronger every day. Separatists and extremist terrorists such as the CNT, ETA, the FSLP, and the BTA have been allowed to fester and grow like tumors, accumulating resources, support, and weapons while we turn a blind eye. Since the battle ended, countless reports have reached the capital from all the provinces about suspicious activities. If we don't do something, what will be next? The ETA seizing Bilbao, terrorists targeting cabinet members, Madrid falling to socialists? It is clear that the government must double down on its efforts to crush the terrorist menace, and will do so by any means possible. The nation will burn before the terrorists win. And we get a new focus tree, so that, finally, an emergency session. Dolores Torres is 26-year-old, a loving mother of 3, 6-year-old Carmen, 4-year-old Jose Luis, and 1-year-old Maria Isabel. This morning, her husband, Angel 38, attended the funerals of his wife and children. Angel lost his home, his wife, and many friends and neighbors, and 2 of his children. Mrs. Serio's father, 51-year-old Army veteran, Antonio Torres, lost his brother, Francisco, to communist terrorism 27 years ago, and now has lost his daughter and 2 grandchildren to the same terrorists that plagued Catalonia in his youth. Dolores died a hero, shielding young Maria Isabel from the violence, and as a martyr, the victim of an attack on the very soul of Iberia, Dolores, Carmen, and Jose are far from alone. Hundreds of men, women, and children became martyrs 3 days ago. Today's session was quite quieter than any that had come before it, and a few councillors struggled to hold back tears as Franco lamented the tragedy that had befallen Barcelona days earlier. Ending his speech with a minute of silence, the Cadillos bowed his head and tightly gripped his podium, his brows revealing suppressed anger. "We will destroy the terrorists." The council erupted into applause, and Franco left the stage. Valacrez stepped up to the podium. His speech began as much as Franco's had, solemn and austere, but soon shifted his focus to the matters of government policy. "Councillors, we are engaged in a struggle for the very spirit of Iberia. For the Union to survive, your service is urgently required. Cadillo Franco and Cadillo Salazar have ordered new legislation to approve the Alexi Anti-Separatista, the power and resources necessary to fully eliminate the leftist threat. Iberia cannot afford a government divided by factionalism or language, by politics or geography. Her council must stand united against terrorism." Even as they applauded, many councillors were deeply nervous. Never in the history of Iberia had so many people been tasked with an important of a task to complete in such short time frame. Murmurs filled the palace after Victor's speech. Most councillors did not know more than 24 other people in the chamber, who among them could write the legislation, and how could it be debated without sending the whole council into chaos. But I think with that, okay, Barcelona burns. Okay, we bypass it immediately. Okay, let's mobilize the AAS. Add another $1 million to the budget. And we're still conservative. I think that's basically about all we can do, at least right now. So I think with that, it's going to be a good time for us to end this episode. So thanks everybody for watching my Anthem. If you enjoyed, my thumbs up. If not, you can always thumbs down. If you want to see more, subscribe. And goodbye.